Hello and welcome to a new episode of Talking Snooker with Phil Haig and Nick Metcalf. Once again, talking about the game we all love.
We are. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us. As always, we're talking snooker bang in the middle of the German Masters this week, and we're loving it already.
We are. It's like Noah's Ark in London, isn't it? There's so much rain. I mean, what's it like in the north of England? I mean, it's just extraordinary deluge.
Yeah, pretty bleak. It's been pretty bleak, but we press on. Spring's around the corner.
Indeed, it is. And you're right, Phil. The German Masters underway. Had a couple of days of action, haven't we? The doors of the Tempodrome in Berlin have swung open, and we'll let you know the stuff that's been happening so far. Vidi Printer, I thought I was the most excited one about Vidi Printer, but your eyes lit up then before we went on air with the chance to do it. And of course, we'll update you as well on the latest happenings in the Championship League, some more details of the WSF Women's Championship that's finished now in Morocco, and some television news that we've had through today as well. We're recording this on a Tuesday night. And if that wasn't enough, the sort of main reason for this episode, which is your views. So we'll come to that a little bit later on. But the German Masters then, Phil, let's get your view on what you made of action so far. I mean, we've had a few Germans over the years, mainly because there's been fewer rounds in Berlin, where a lot of sort of big names haven't really figured in the later stages. This won't be the case this time, I don't think. So far, looking at it, results going the way, victories going the way of John Higgins, Neil Robertson, Kyron Wilson, Judd Trump on day one. Shaun Murphy carrying on, what a month for him, beating Liam Graham 5-0, breaks of 55, 79, 108 and 106 from Murphy. Quite good at snooker at the moment, Shaun. It's all right, isn't he?
Not bad. Not bad.
Trio on new 5 Stuart Bingham nil was a result that caught the eye. Graham Dot pushed Sang Ander all the way. 4-1 down he was, Graham. Came back to 4-4 before Sham won the decider. Alfie Burden pushed Barry Hawkins. Hawkins winning that one 5-4. And then we'll come to the Vidi Printer shortly, but maybe I'll give you the Vidi Printer. You're the one that teed it up, so I'll give you that. Before that, results definitely through today, Tuesday. Anthony McGill 5, Pang Jung Soo 4. Saw you flagged that up, actually. What a finish in terms of a century break in each of the last 3 frames. Well, I was talking up Wu Years of Jackson Page. Well, it wasn't much of a contest. Wu won it 5-1. Breaks of 52, 138, 50 and 126 from him. And Alex Ersenbacher with a very, very good win, beating Jack Lazowski 5-3. So reaction from you to all that lot. And then take the Vidi Printer away. We'll open it up like David Coleman all those years ago.
Yeah, it's been good. I've watched a fair amount of the first 2 days. It's a lovely setup there, isn't it? You do see in the home nations and multi-table tournaments like that, you do catch glimpses of the other tables, but not in the same way that you do in Berlin, where you see people playing in the background. It's like they're playing in a club, but just an amazing club. So it's really cool. And then I quite like the high angle on the outside table of the camera as well. You don't see that very often, so that's quite enjoyable. And yeah, it looks like the outside table is where most of the sort of dynamite's been happening, really. There's been a lot of big breaks going on around the outside. Not so much on the main table. I know Kyron seemed to be struggling with conditions a bit. Mark Selby didn't look like he was loving it, but both came through their matches well. Even Mark Allen, he beat David Lilly 5-0, but it wasn't really sort of bust a performance. But yeah, but there's been some great stuff going on the rest of the tables though. I know Luca was on a one. He got just over 100 into a 147 in his win over Zhang Jun. He's looking good again. We made those breaks that you said about. So yeah, it's been good so far. Enjoyed it. And as we're speaking, yeah, I mean Aaron Hill is 4-2 up and in the balls against Mark Williams. So
Oh,
yeah, that'll tick over while we're on air. So we'll see. That's the big shock there. Jimmy Robertson's leading knock on Sankam. Ricky Walden's leading Ryan Day. And it's 2-2 between Gary Wilson and Daniel Wells. So plenty of close stuff. But yeah, if Hill scores that win over Williams, that'll be a very big one for him.
you got a bit of a woo there from me. So not sure what that would have been. Generation game or something. Cracking games coming up tomorrow for Wednesday, by the way. John Higgins, Jack Jones, Mark Allen, Wu Yizer. Did Mark make a little dig? Life's so busy. It flashed by. He made some sort of comment about it being dark or something, and I thought, oh, has he complained about it being dark? I think he has. He had a bit of a
He
little.
has said something about the lights before. He's not the only one. Some people have the outside. The outside tables can be it's difficult. It's such an unusual setup, isn't it? Having
It
the
is.
main table so far away from the audience. It looks great on the telly, but yeah, there are some problems with it. But he won his game 5-0, so I don't think he was complaining after that.
True enough. Zhang and Robert Milkins, one also that I saw on the schedule of matches coming up, and world champion Cohen Wilson's got Zhao Yulong. We are still early in the tournament. Loads coming up, of course. Even after the end of today's play, still 5 days to come. So we'll look forward to that. What about Judd Trump, though? He's got Joe O'Connor next. And when he spoke to you in recent days, Phil, really like the interview, as ever, from you. He says the crowds in Berlin are on a par with the Masters, close to or on a par with. And he thinks those two are out there on their own. I know you flagged it up. You'd be doing this piece and he'd be talking about the atmosphere. He really is talking it up, saying it's on a par with the Masters when he play on the final weekend, especially. Obviously, in Berlin, that becomes one table then. He says he thinks the tournament should be bigger than it is. I'll read some quotes out for him. He said, I don't think it should be on a par with some of the other events like the home nations, although Northern Ireland is the exception. I think Germany should be up there, just behind the UK, but it's not really gone anywhere. It's stagnated a little bit. There should be a few changes to make it a bit bigger than it is, because the crowd over there deserve it. It's a little bit disappointing because I feel they could even hold the Tour Championship or something over there. The crowd deserves something bigger. It's excellent to have a tournament there, but the fans deserve a bigger, more prestigious event. I found myself a little bit torn, if I'm really honest, with those quotes. I mean, partly I sort of think, I get what he's saying, actually. You know, that some people think the prize money maybe should have gone up. And there are times when I think, is it actually quite big enough the way we talk? We do talk about it a lot, but maybe only the 2 or 3 weeks before. Does it deserve more talk generally in snooker? But another part of me thought, well, it's got a great event in this. So it almost feels like talking it down a little bit, so it should have something else. And it reminded me, my good friend Gary Moss, one of my great, fellow nerds of the game, I like to say. I like to big him up like that. He often says about, different things. Well, it's a bit like when I don't know, a bit less talk this time, actually. A bit like the Masters when it's, it's really looking good, though. It's host the World Championship. Well, it hosts the Masters. It's brilliant. And I'm maybe as guilty as the next person, but we always seem to be sort of trying to sort of play celebrity squares or something. This goes there and that should go into that. And what about sorting the jigsaw out like this rather than sometimes? Well, the German Masters is brilliant. So, I mean, John has some valid points about maybe the way the tournament could have grown a bit more. But the way I think about it, could have other events like the Tour Championship. And I think it's got something brilliant. And I never hear anyone in Berlin sort of complain about it. But no, I'd say strong quotes.
Yeah, no, I know what you're saying though, and I think it was a funny time to say it because I think the prize money has gone up this year, 200 grand, which is the same as the home nation. So I do feel like probably is a step up above those ones. So I agree with them there. But it has also changed. They changed the qualifying, didn't they? So top 32 went straight there. So they have made some tweaks. And I think I mentioned this in the piece that I think when players say bigger, it just means sort of the prize money, which is understandable. And that's sort of how tournaments are ranked really in importance over the season. So it is a bit behind some others. But I think in a lot of ways, people do see it as bigger than ones on sort of similar prize money anyway. The players all talk it up so much, quite rightly. It's such a unique arena. The fans are great. So yeah, I think really when Judd's talking about changes to make it bigger, he's thinking he can just increase the top prize.
But it's a very small increase, that isn't it? I mean,
It is, yeah, and yeah, I agree that it could be more, but it's just down to backing, isn't it? And I think it's very expensive to rent the Tempodrome, so it's quite difficult
yeah.
to make money in European events. That's why there are so few compared to over in China and here. So yeah, I agree with what you're saying. I get what he's saying, but it is great as it is. I wouldn't want to. Yeah, they're saying that I wouldn't want to get rid of that multiple table setup. Everyone says the one table setup there at the end is amazing, which it looks like. But I do like that it builds to that, and I think it would be a shame to take the tour championship there, like Judd said, and then just have it all single table and not the interesting sort of multi-table bit. Although I'm sure a handful of top players would like doing that, but I like this atmosphere at the start and then get that amazing last weekend.
Yeah, no, you summed it up so well. And, I didn't mean to sound disparaging about the prize money. I mean, there are all sorts of reasons. Again, it's one of those classic things is that very easy to sort of say at home, why isn't there more prize money? But of course, there are all kinds of factors there. As you say, we're often told over the years, how expensive that venue is. You can see why it is. It's a prized place to host anything. And we got that extra time, which we loved, didn't we? It always felt like it was all started, then it was over a bit of 5 days. I do notice a difference to seven. I'm not just saying that, I really do. If you say 2 days, it can't be that much. It is. It feels like it's all that little bit longer there, and I like that. So yeah, you're right when players talk about things being big, they often mean money. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. I mean, maybe we could all contribute a little bit more and speak a little bit more about it in the build up. The problem that has, of course, is the Masters is so massive, isn't it?
Okay.
And even the ones that, even our friends in Germany, the pundits over there, talking about this a lot, but they're also talking about the Masters. It's just gone, Ali Pali, and how big that was. But again, it's good to follow a big event with a big event. So I'm sure it will continue to delight us in the years to come. We'll have more video interaction coming up as well. Update you on the matches going on while we're on air. Mark Williams in trouble there, as Phil mentioned. But what about the Championship League then? Well, let's update you on that. Last week's action then. And I'll just give you the main highlights. There were quite a few. Matt Selt beating Judd Trump 3-0 in the Group 5 final. I think you mentioned that when we were last on air. Well, in terms of Group 6, it was Judd Trump beating Joe O'Connor 3-0 in the final of that. Not bad, actually. Breaks of 1-1-3, 103, and 101. Bit like the Tony Mio, sort of similar sort of stuff. And then in the Group 7 final, Zhao Guidong, first mention of the Tony Mio. I can't, you got it, haven't you? Zhao Guidong beat David Gilbert 3-2 in that. But, a couple more matters. I mean, Jack Jones didn't play, pulled out of Group 7 in the end. He decided to stick with 32 centuries. Well and truly a record for any tournament. I think he was on 20 on when we were last on air. 32, that's okay. And then what can we say about the stories of the 147s? My goodness. Joe O'Connor, let me get this right. Joe O'Connor, Mr. Black, he could have got one. It wasn't a gimme black by any means, but he'd have maybe expected to get it. And I couldn't resist being a bit sarcastic and flippant about Jack Lazowski, who had the most horrible shot in the black you will ever see in your life. Basically, I think the position from the pink hit the knuckle of the middle, didn't it? Then it deflected towards the corner, one of the corner pockets in the bulk end, came off that, and it was just horrible. It wasn't absolutely directly in line, if we're looking vertically with the black, but it almost was at the other end of the table. He actually had a very good effort at it, which nobody really said. I thought it was a tremendous effort, an almost impossible pot. Some people were saying, he could have doubled it in the green pocket. It was just horrible. But oh no, Phil Yates was all over that, wasn't he? But then we did eventually get one. It was yes, eventually, because David Gilbert got a maximum, made the third of his career. But yeah, I mean, you can tell the Championship League isn't quite at the level of a more serious event, because the referee was joking with Jack. Did you notice that? Saying there's 6 pockets. I thought, well, that wouldn't happen at the Crucible, would it?
No. Yeah, but it was those few 6 days of those groups. Yeah, I mean, I've always been fine with the Championship League, but it was absolutely just sort of like carnage. It felt like someone was on a 147 every other frame. The centuries going in everywhere. When I spoke to Judd, whenever that was during that week, he did say it was conducive to scoring, and it certainly was. I mean, there was huge breaks flying in, but it was very entertaining. I mean, Listowski's break was chaos all the way through. It was incredible. He got to that final shot, and yeah, I remember watching it live and thinking he can't even have a go at chopping this into the corner black pocket. But as you say, he got very close. I thought he was just going to well it around the table and see what happened. But you can't really do that at the end of a 147. But yeah, congratulations to Gilbert for doing that his third of his career. Actually, the Joe O'Connor one, I was on the phone to Lisowski. I was doing a few interviews that week, and I was talking to him about whatever we were talking about, and he just out of nowhere went, "Oh no!" And I had no idea what was happening, and it was because O'Connor had just missed his black on there, and he had it on the screen. So yeah, they were just flying in all over the place. But very
That's
entertaining.
brilliant. Well, so wait a second, you were chatting to him and you suddenly went, oh no, very professional that you didn't have it on yourself. I like that. I like that.
Yeah,
Fully focused on Jack Lazowski. And then you're like,
absolutely. He was not.
what did you think it happened?
I don't know. He wasn't sort of like a completely panicked, so I didn't think it was anything really terrible. But it turned out it was that.
Brilliant.
But yeah, no, and Zhao Zhong playing brilliantly as well. He looked great. So yeah, we've got a really interesting winners group. I think that'll be happening next week. So you got sort of the big hitters of Trump and Kyron and Selby, and Zhao Guidong just below that, I guess, and then Sijoui, Hossein Vafai, and Matt Selt, because the winner of that gets into the Champion of Champions. So great chance for those three that wouldn't be in there already. No, yeah, no, actually Zhao won't be in there because he's just been in that one. But yeah, good chances for those guys. And if it's anything like the groups that have been building up to it, we're going to see a lot of big breaks. Probably 147 again. So yeah, interesting week. Nice to hear Peter Lyons was on commentary for a day or two. Nice to hear some different voices. So yeah, it's a good, it's definitely a good filler when there's not a big tournament on. I was enjoying it.
Well, I'm glad to hear it. There's so much going on, as you say. I mean, you just can't um, you couldn't go through a sort of day without a big headline. So social media was all over it. Loads of sort of clips, loads of, and that those breaks were and big moments were getting lots of views. So Championship League doing a good job of keeping itself in the headlines, I have to say, and conducive to scoring. It's a bit like one of those old tabloid codes, isn't it? That means pocket. That means pockets are buckets, doesn't it?
Yeah, they just seem to be very, very generous.
Conducive to scoring. I've got to remember that. That's a great little phrase. Yeah. Right then, let's move on then and talk about good viewing figures. Phil, you rightly flagged this up. Good viewing figures for the climax of the WSF Women's Championship. 61,000 watching on the WPBSA YouTube channel. Far bigger numbers in China too. As Mink Nutcharut won the title, she came from behind in that final to win 4-3 against Bai Yulu. So many of these finals. I mean, look how they tend to be short, but so many of these finals on the women's tour go to deciders. They're always so dramatic, so tense. I think a lot of those, top players are pretty similar. Just to say, we brought you the quarterfinal results when we were last on air. And in the semis, it was Bai Yulu beating On Yi 4-1 and Mink Nutcharut 4, Rebecca Kenner 1. So it is familiar names getting to the latter stages, but you can't predict these finals. Mink got this one. And yeah, brilliant numbers. So, I mean, the idea there's no interest in women's snooker is for the birds. I mean, people tune in to watch it. So that's great to see. And yeah, the redoubtable Mink. She keeps winning titles. I saw something like she tends to have a great record at winning them earlier on in the season. Well, this is, getting towards halfway through now, but another title in the bag. I think it might be a ninth world ranking event. Great effort and great viewing figures, Phil.
Yeah, great effort coming from behind against Bai, who's sort of the star of the show in the women's game at the minute. But Mink is the women's world number one. And yeah, it's maybe it's not that big over here or as big as it could be, but these players, it's very popular where they're from. Those judging by the YouTube comments where I was watching that over 60,000, there was a lot of them were from Thailand because it was all in Thai. But that's great. She's a good star over there. And yeah, those figures in China. And Matt Hewitt replied to a tweet that I put out saying there was over 400,000 watching in the first frame in China. So by encouragingly becoming a star over there too. I know the figures were brilliant when she won the Women's World Championship last time out. So yeah, good stuff. We sort of always know who's going to be at the end when you see the draws those tournaments. There aren't too many upsets, but yeah, they're the best players, so they win the most regularly. But yeah, it was great tension at the end of that. The scoring in the women's game isn't as strong as obviously as the open game, but it does make for a lot of very tense, edgy finales, and that's exactly what we got there. So yeah, congratulations to Mink, great win for her.
Exactly right. They often go to the deciding frames and they often go down to the colours, these finals. They're absolutely gripping to watch. And obviously, many people agree with that because those are smashing numbers. Let's talk about Leon Crowley then from Cork in Ireland. Well, he beat England's Kaylan Patel 5-0 in the final of the WSF Junior Championship and has won himself a 2-year World Snooker Tour card. Many congratulations to him, young man. We wish him well, of course. He says, I feel very good. I've been playing the game for the last 10 years and I've put a lot of hard work into this. So I'm just happy to have made my dad proud and myself too. My family back home were all watching. So I want to thank them for all the support. I 100% believe this was possible. If you don't believe that, you're not going to achieve your goals. I want to gain experience and hopefully I can stay on the tour. I don't want to say too much, but hopefully after those 2 years, I will stay on. My hero is Judd Trump, so I would like to play him. all our hero is Judd Trump in many ways, Phil. But that's a great effort, isn't it, from a young player there? He certainly won that final handsomely. So yeah, we'll see how he gets on. That's always pretty much the goal, isn't it? If you can stay on, it won't always be easy, of course, and those early weeks and months can be a baptism of fire. But what he certainly had, he won that final sort of handily. Had some very good wins along the way. So we've got to say hats off, congratulations.
Yeah, yeah, fabulous achievement. Not a player I knew loads about. I'd heard his name. I think he'd played in the shootout before. And I didn't know a lot about Caleb Patel either, but he's from Leicester and plays Ben Wilson's his coach. So yeah, they both did brilliantly to get the final. 5-0, but looking at the frame score, I watched a little bit of it, not very much, but looking at the frame scores, they were all reasonably tight. So 5-0 maybe was a bit flattering, but Liam won't mind at all. And yeah, great to have more Irish representation on the tour. Um, yeah, it just it's the sport's so well loved over there. So be great to have an Irishman slugging away on the on the World Snooker Tour, but it will be difficult, of course. No one really sort of comes on and starts picking up loads and loads of wins. So it'll be one of those where if you can get some first rounders under your belt, then brilliant. But yeah, good luck to him. It'd be really interesting to see him get stuck in.
And lots more snooker continuing in Morocco. Of course, the WSF Championship underway. So congratulations to everyone that's claimed important victories in Morocco so far. And good luck to those still competing.
I
And
must
well
say,
done.
I watched a little bit of Tony Knowles against Rory McLeod on Saturday afternoon, and thought it's an interesting way to spend a Saturday afternoon. It was a bit of a slugfest, but yeah, I turned it on straight away, and Tony missed it's the black of the spot that I'd be fuming if I missed it. So it wasn't the best, but fair play to Tony. He still won a match in his group stage. He didn't get through to the knockouts, which we just got to now. But yeah, there's some good names in there though. Still fighting away. Liam Highfield, Ashley Hugill. I mean, this shows how good it is. The last 64 we're in now. There's Julian Boyko versus Mark Joyce in that round. So
Oh,
yeah, good stuff. And we'll have a report of the whoever wins that next time we're on, I guess.
yeah, I would have think so. Yeah, Mark Joyce has been at the Crucible not so long ago, one or two ago, I think, if memory serves. And yeah, I think I read somewhere that Tony was quite moody about various things. I don't know quite why. He may not have been his best form, but yeah, Tony Knowles. I mean, who doesn't choose to watch Tony Knowles v Rory McLeod on a Saturday afternoon? That's a hell of a lot of experience there, Phil, isn't there? Bloody hell. They'll have a lot of snooker craft from over the
Big time.
years.
Yeah, for
And
sure. Oh, and a shout as well, talking about the women's game. On you made a great century to win her final group stage game. I saw a clip of that, and she's into the knockout stage as well. So that would be quite something if she could come through an open event. That'd be amazing.
it certainly will. Your views to come then. And let's first take some television news for you. And this is actually from you, Phil Hager at Metro. Eurosport will no longer be available on British screens next month, and some sports fans face a huge price rise as a result. Warner Brothers Discovery is changing where its output is shown, and the programming currently on Eurosport will go to TNT Sports channels in the UK and Ireland. Snooker, cycling, and tennis are among the sports most widely shown on Eurosport, but they will switch to TNT Sports from 28th of February. The change is set to cost fans of those sports a huge amount, as the TNT Sports package is priced at £30.99 a month. Currently, Eurosport is included in Sky TV and Virgin Media packages at no extra cost, while the streaming platform Discovery Plus sets fans back £6.99 a month. That will no longer be an option, and to continue to watch live snooker, cycling, and other sports, fans will have to fork out the full £30.99 per month for the package, which will also include football, rugby, boxing, UFC, motorsport, and others. There are cheaper deals to be had through TV packages, with Cycling Weekly reporting that Virgin Media customers, for example, can add it to their bundle for an additional £18 a month. Sky TV customers can do the same for an extra £30 a month. EE mobile customers can purchase TNT Sports as an add-on for £20 a month. Scott Young, the Senior Vice President at WBD Sports Europe, said, combining Eurosport and TNT Sports content in the UK and Ireland will enable us to offer a single premium viewing experience for sports fans. We know customers like to find a single destination for the sports they love. Part of the timing was driven by distribution agreements but most of it was just timed on firstly landing TNT Sports correctly and successfully. We have now got ourselves a point where TNT Sports is in a good space. We're now ready to migrate the content from Eurosport in this market. It gives us the ability to go from a live major event, say the Premier League, and connect that into, for example, a stage of a cycling event that's either underway or about to start. This live to live broadcasting strategy will have the on air team talking to each other and actually connecting. Well, I can see why they want that, because that is something that always looks good and looks the part on television. We don't know all the details of this yet. I think it's fair to say. They do point out, don't they, Warner Brothers, there will still be live sport on Quest. Now, that's free to air. That's Warner Brothers free to air channel. They've mentioned so far there'll definitely be a free to air cycling package show, and I think some speedway perhaps. I'd be very surprised if it doesn't include snooker. I don't know why it wouldn't, really. I mean, it's always been on there. I don't know why that wouldn't be on there now. So that will be an option. It's disappointing for many fans, no question. That they will simply feel that they may now be priced out of that. It's a big increase. The way I think about it is it's a bit like the price of going to events as fans. For years, it was very, very cheap to go and watch snooker live. There was a big dramatic increase. There wasn't that gradual thing. It was probably undersold. Fans probably had a great deal for a long time. That's now changed very quickly. It's no doubt a dramatic hike. I know fans have been contacting us, Phil, saying they feel disappointed they may not be able to watch their favourite events anymore. Important to say, I think, that there are a range of events and a range of television options. For example, the Welsh Open soon will be live on BBC Wales, the Players' Championship on ITV, the Tour Championship on ITV, the World Championship on the BBC. So there are a whole range of events still. And what I also find is, I don't know if it's a bit of a generalisation, but I find snooker fans, maybe more than most sports, are often snooker and not much else. I don't know if you find that, or snooker's by a mile their number one. I never fall into that category. I've always loved all sports. But that's possibly a factor. And you might get that a bit with cycling as well. So I do get it. People are saying, well, I don't want to watch Barcelona play AC Milan or a big rugby match. Some people will feel that, but obviously some people won't feel that, and they'll want to have everything in one place. And I'm sure some people will buy these packages and already have them. But I know for some snooker fans, they'll be disappointed. No, I do get that. I'm sure you do too.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, yeah. I mean, if you want every single thing that's on the TNT Sports package, then it's probably not that expensive, really, because you'll be watching a lot of sport. But yeah, you're right. There's a lot of snooker fans, and this applies to the sports as well. But we're on a snooker podcast who just like that sport, and getting Eurosport in with Sky or Virgin, and then paying £7 a month for Discovery Plus was great value because you get an awful lot of snooker, but quadrupling that is a massive change. We expect price rises. It goes in every walk of life. That seems to happen. The odd pound or two every so often, but it's going from £7 a month to 31 is substantial, and a lot of people will feel that they either can't or won't. You've probably got to give something else up in your life to stick to what you had before, which is a difficult choice to make. So yeah, it's a shame. I'm sure viewing figures will take a big hit at some of these events, which isn't good for the sport. Um, it's especially annoying timing, because it's going to come in just before the Grand Prix, the new exciting bigger Grand Prix in Hong Kong, and a lot fewer people will be seeing it. You would think. But yeah, like you said, Quest. Hopefully, that's sort of our hope, isn't it? Because they have left that open to put some stuff on there. Hopefully, they will throw some crumbs and chuck some snooker tournaments on there. They've not suggested they will, but it is an option. So we'll see. And I would say as well, um, Discovery Plus service will run till next year, and then in 2026, HBO, no, Warner Brothers' other streaming service, Max, will come in
Max,
and
yeah.
take over it all. And we don't know what price that's going to be. So that's also a bit of hope for the future that we'll see what happens. But it's quite rare prices come down, I must admit. But that is a change that will come as well, and that could be different. So yeah, can't pretend it's good news. There's been a lot of upset, really. I mean, I posted that story this morning. Um, and I've had a day of a lot of social media notifications of people very upset about it, and understandably. So, yeah, not great news, but that is the news.
And I do feel that some of this is not absolutely clear yet, is it? The news has come through today. I do feel when the dust has settled, we'll know absolutely, everything about the different deals. As I say, if you are an EE mobile customer, you can get something, cheaper with that. Virgin Media, not everyone will have to pay 30.99, but listen, it's obviously a significant change. One element that I would like to say, maybe it's the wrong time, I don't know, but obviously we expect the coverage to very much look the same, and it's important to say that this is really a factor for the UK. This is not the end of
Mm.
Eurosport. Eurosport will continue to broadcast across Europe. If you're listening to this, for some of the voices and people you've known forever, we also have the people we've known forever, but with a different kind of branding. But that I suspect the ethos in saying that will change to some extent. And just saying Eurosport in a UK sense, I was just thinking throughout the day, I have so many memories of that. The first time I saw it, I was thinking was at an uncle of mine's house during Italia 90. I'm pretty sure it was Italy against the United States. I still remember the big Eurosport branding and loads of stuff. Like I worked there myself about 15, 16, 17 years ago when they were in Feltham. I did weekend shifts. They always remember thinking they were, very nice, kind crowd. I went on a big Tour de France press trip with them in 2011. So loads of stuff that, sat next to Sean Kelly one night on that, as I remember. So loads of memories and not just snooker, but I think sort of winter sports has always been tremendous on there
Mm.
throughout the winter months. You can everything you can imagine, stuff we've never seen, all the skiing you want, all the bobsleigh, everything. So loads of stuff. Obviously, I found that cycling's made a lot more headlines today. Of you generally,
Mm.
we've had some in snooker, but I mean, there's loads and loads of cycling about because they've, again, we talk about how, we can talk about things that go against snooker fans at times, but you look at cycling, for example, they're losing their free to air coverage of the Tour de France. I mean, and that's the biggest event in cycling where we have comprehensive free to air coverage of the World Championship, the Masters, the UK. Don't get me wrong, we want as much as we can, but there are still a whole range of different offerings throughout the season. But I guess I get that people feel that on a week in week out basis that they enjoyed watching their snooker, and we just hope that some of it's on Quest. I mean, they do tend to have the home nations afternoons, don't they? Afternoons and not really evenings, but then semis and finals will be on. So if that's the case, that still will be a significant free to air presence, but obviously not as much as we're used to. But as you say, Phil, inundated on social media today, people really upset with this. The forums are full, and it's funny because you say sort of juxtaposition really because we had obviously the BBC News, then this as well. So there's lots of sort of dramatic things going on television. It's so fragmented now, isn't it? What you need to buy anything. I mean, I've seen some people say they have to sort of look at their whole TV package arrangements. I mean, I think we're all probably in that boat sometimes. I mean, I have the way I've watched Eurosport and Discovery Snooker for a long time now is through Amazon. That's how I've managed to see it, and that's always been okay. Apart from a few issues when they seem to turn off the cameras sometimes on that before matches are quite over, which is not great. But that's the way I sort of followed it. So I understand that now won't be possible. So it's all a bit up in the air. But yeah, keep your views coming to us. Certainly, talkingsnooker@yahoo.com or tweet us at Talking Snooker. And Phil, should we move on to correspondence? Have you got any more to say about that?
I was just going to add about that. Yeah, the point you made as well, that you definitely should be able to shop around. I think there are deals to be done with your internet provider or who provides your TV. That is a way of getting the price down. And someone actually tweeted me saying they went to cancel their Discovery Plus, and when you got to their final bit saying I'm fully cancelling, they'll give you it half price for a few months. I've not checked that out, but someone did say that. So there may be some ways to save a few quid if you do think you want to get the new TNT package, you might be able to get it a bit cheaper. So if we hear of any of those officially, we'll let you know. But there were a couple that someone had pointed out to me today.
Yeah, because I saw that sort of thing. Oh, it's £30.99. I'm not sure it's quite the case for everybody. I think there will be ways to get that cheaper actually, but that's further down the line. We'll of course update you on this podcast about that. But that is the news today. Significant television news. And Phil, I think we should move on to correspondence next. We've done about half an hour. That is the main reason for this episode. And we should say you are listening here to Talking Snooker with Phil Haigh and Nick Metcalf. Phil, it's time to hear from the listeners. What do they know? Not much, we know that. But anyway, I'm joking, of course. They know loads, and it's always great to hear from them. Here's Graham Walsh first. Hi, Phil and Nick. What a great Masters. Wonderful attacking snooker all round, a 1-full-7, a quality final, and a deserved winner in Shaun Murphy. I don't get some of the comments directed at a magician. He's one of the game's greats who, whether you like him or not, loves the game and plays it the right way. This Masters is perhaps his greatest win, given his post-match comments where he said he thought he might never win anything as big as this again. The TV coverage was exemplary. Lovely to see Ronnie on Eurosport and Dennis Taylor back in the box on the BBC. Good news too that Triple Crown Snooker on the Beeb is guaranteed until 2032. What chance now the world's moving from the UK? There was even, dare I say, some good interviews on Radio Snooker, including a wonderful snippet with Cliff Thorburn. Thanks to WST for posting a video of the closing moments from the first Masters final 50 years ago. A different game to today's match. The clip opened with commentator Ted Lowe dryly summarising the final frame as a real dour struggle. Also strange now to see John Spencer refusing seemingly easy pots that would have won him the match in the last frame, but then casually slamming in a tricky respotted black from distance to take victory. Following my recent email, I remember this now, about the quietness of referees. That might have been around the UK time. It was interesting to see the ref in the 1975 final shout the scores so loudly he could probably be heard halfway down the Fulham Road. Maybe he wasn't used to TV microphones. Graham. In fact, you went with your mother, didn't you, to an event, Graham, if memory serves now, either the Champion of Champions or the UK, and mentioned about referees. So thank you for contacting us again. Good to hear from you. And really good Masters, no doubt about it. Shaun Devine's opinion. That's definitely the way to say it. I think he's a brilliant ambassador and a marvellous player, Shaun. That's really the two things I've always thought about him. But if you say something about Shaun Murphy, it's fair to say that some people might say something negative in response. I think a lot of the time, whether that's right or wrong, that's up to fans. I mean, I've always thought Shaun, plays the game the right way. He's an absolute brilliant delight to watch. He lit up this Masters. He lights up many tournaments. I can't believe he doesn't win more when he plays like that. He talks in the right way. He wears a lot of hats. He'll say that himself. Maybe that hasn't always been to his advantage. Broadcasting and in the official parts and wings of the game, and also, as a player. So I get that sometimes, maybe that was, why Mark Allen was certainly upset. I think Shaun hinted towards when I say different things to different people sometimes. I don't want to put words in Shaun's mouth, but that's a little bit like that. But interesting thoughts there from you, Graham. And different game 50 years ago. Players did refuse stuff. It was crazy. And the game's so much more attacking now. But not much more to add there. Good TV coverage. Enjoyable Masters. Thanks to the Radio Snooker compliment. And Shaun's carried on in Berlin. He's looking amazing, Phil.
Yeah, it looks great. Yeah. It's quite hard to work out why he divides opinion so much. 'Cause as you say, he's an unbelievable player. I get on really well with Shaun. I think it's maybe he just puts himself out there quite a lot. I think it's like a British thing. I feel like if he was an American, he wouldn't divide opinion so much. I think it's probably just sort of British reservedness a bit that people aren't quite comfortable with people who put themselves out there quite so much. Like you say, he's wears a lot of hats. He's involved in everything. Even the punditry and the commentary now. He's great with us in the media. He'll always oblige for that, which is all positive stuff. But maybe it's a British thing that people doesn't quite sit well with some people.
Maybe, but I'll tell you what, listen to Radio Snooker and a shameless plug there. Speaking to reaction, I got reaction from people after the final. That wasn't mixed. they were saying how much they
Mm.
love Shaun. They thought he's brilliant, great ambassador for the game. I mean, just by coincidence, I know there were lots of Kyron fans in that arena, but there weren't the ones I interviewed. Just coincidence, really. It was mainly Shaun. They were delighted to see him win. They think he's brilliant. So again, maybe I've got that thing in my head. Don't always think the online world's the real world. I get that as well. And sometimes it's maybe a bit more on forums. But I mean, listen, he said some bad stuff. I think that stuff about amateurs wasn't great. But then which one of us hasn't said bad stuff? And he's been playing the game for 20 odd years. When he says as much stuff as he does, he's not going to say every bit of the stuff right, is he? If you get my drift.
100%. I think that all the time. And these guys, as you say, their careers are so long, and we plaster them with so many interviews. You can't possibly get it all right. And he's sort of backtracked on those comments since, and he's seen the error of his ways. But yeah, it wasn't. I spoke to him a few days afterwards. Did an interview with him not quite a week later, and he said the response has been absolutely just overwhelmingly nice. Um, as you'd expect it to be. It's going to be congratulatory, but he said just the amount of it sort of blew him away. So that was really nice to hear. And I think people's careers can change, and people haven't seen him win one of these big ones for 10 years, and it reminds people of 10 and 20 years ago, and people get a nice, not quite. It makes him sound too old if you say nostalgic, because he's not an old man. But it just reminds them of the past a bit. And people can have sort of renaissances in how popular they are and things. So yeah, and he certainly felt the love after what was an amazing uh, victory. And as you say, he seems to be carrying it on very impressively. Shall I move on to Brian Campbell? Dear Nick and Phil, what a great start to 2025, and it has been for the podcast with your excellent interview with Radzi. I don't see this lightly, but it's right up there with the John Higgins episode, in my opinion. I was reflecting upon why this edition was so good. Firstly, Radzi was a phenomenal guest. He was articulate, intelligent, thoughtful, interesting, and a fantastic example to youngsters because he has worked phenomenally hard and never gave up when times were tough to achieve his deserved success. Secondly, I'd like to congratulate both of you for allowing Radzi the time and space to answer your questions. It's a great skill knowing when to let guests talk and when to interject. Your judgment was definitely another reason why this episode was so phenomenal and should be applauded. I'd like to add my thoughts to a couple of topics discussed with Radzi. On the subject of box ticking, when he appeared on BBC4 at the Crucible several years ago, I personally saw him as a young face and much needed new blood to keep things fresh, like Abigail Davies. I didn't realise he was already in his 30s. What a testament to a healthy lifestyle. On Eurosport, I see him as firmly part of the snooker family, as I do with Rachel Casey, Hazel on BBC, or Jill Douglas on ITV. He's simply a very good presenter with his own style. Regarding snooker participation, I think Radzi is spot on regarding playing on pool-sized tables. I recently had my first game of snooker in quite some time in my local sports bar in Greenock. There are four snooker tables with the rest of the club containing countless pool tables and dartboards. The youngsters in the club were all crowded round the pool tables. I think if you've never played snooker before, unless you have a real aptitude for it, a full-size table could be very discouraging because it's very difficult to pot a ball and the frame can last for ages. The fun factor perhaps just isn't there. On a pool table, frames are shorter, snappier, and it's easier to pop balls and have fun. If there's a few of you with a winner stays on scenario, it's never long until it's your turn to play. So maybe we need smaller tables with bigger pockets and six reds to encourage participation and make it fun as a gateway to playing on a full-size table thereafter. Keep up the great work. Kind regards, Brian. He has two questions for you. Should we? Oh no, we'll do this. If there is a snooker match or moment you could travel back in time to witness in the flesh, where would you go and who would you see? Also, if you could have anyone on the podcast as a guest, who would you invite on? How about having a celebrity fan? I'm thinking that Nico McBrain, who was Iron Maiden's drummer, or actor and poet Tim Key, would be ideal as they genuinely love their snooker. Thanks, Brian. Um, well, that last one, I mean, you've hit two of my big loves there, heavy metal and comedy. Big fan of Tim Key. So I'd love to. I was thinking about this, and I would love to have someone from the snooker world who you rarely hear from or ever hear from. Someone like a Kirk Stevens. When was
Oh,
the last time
yeah.
we heard from him? That would be dreamy.
Someone that's even said that to me, actually. I don't know where it was now. They mentioned that. Yeah, there's something about Kirk Stevens as a name. I mean, he's very much, in the mind because of the Masters just gone, that white suit. He's connected with a lot of stuff, Kirk Stevens, but he's very, very Masters connected. I mean, I asked Cliff Thorburn how he is and how much he sees him. There's just something about him. Obviously, he's had difficult issues off the table. We know that, but seems to be doing pretty well. Cliff, by the way, saying he doesn't see him too much, but when he sees him, he's on pretty good form. That's great. That's great to hear. So, yeah, that's not a bad call. Do you want to do your snooker match and moment, or?
I also thought about this, and obviously there's endless options. But I was thinking of we hear so much about Goffs and what an amazing
Oh,
venue it was. And that final, I think '89, where Alex Higgins beat Stephen Hendry in a decider, and it was his last ever professional title. What an atmosphere that would have been, and what a celebration afterwards that would have been. So I might go with that, but obviously there's endless ones, but I'll say that for now.
that's a great one. That's a great one. There's that picture, isn't there, that I put up on one of our, I might have been on Talking Snooker channel, of that map where Higgins is just. Do you remember it? All the people looking at him. I think
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
he's by the sort of by his chair, but he might be sitting on the little sort of not shelf thing, little sort of wall next to it type thing, and absolutely compelling. And you're right, that must have been electric. The days when you people used to sort of stand at the sort of at the back at Goffs. Yeah, that's a great one. Well, both mine are kind of Higgins as well, so he must have a. I mean, listen, it's one of those where if you ask me in a year's time, I might have something else. It's not a definitive. This is definitely the one I have. But I just thought it's the Higgins in either 72 or 82 for me. So either one of those. That the 72 because there's so much sort of attached to it and stuff we don't really know. A lot of it's passed down with folklore. You talk about the upturned beard, the sort of dreadful lighting, the smoke, and just how exciting Higgins would have been then, so young. It's something you can't recapture. That's what I like about that. It's the lack of knowledge of stuff and stuff that I'd seen that I just don't really know about. The 82 one's a bit different because we know everything about it from seeing it on telly, but it still would have been amazing to be there.
Yeah.
The 69 break. And I think Mark Watterson may have said he was there when him and Ryan joined us last year. I could be wrong, but memory serves he may have been at that. I know two or three others that were there as well, actually, but that would have been that. As for sort of name dropping, I've spent quite a bit of time with Nico McBrain and Tim Key just by being at the Crucible. I'm sure you have with Tim Key. I think we both met him in recent times. Well, he sort of gave me a pretty firmish no when I asked him, but did you sort of get a bit more positive? I don't know. Typical Haig, much more persuasive than me, of course. I think did he leave you hanging, or because for me it
No,
was
he said he was up for it, but
not.
we were sort of semi on a night out, and he'd had a few beers. I think I actually been to see him live, and just got chatting with him afterwards with my sister, and yeah, then we had a few beers, and then he said yes, but then we've never organised it since. So it's up in the air. We'll see. It'd be great though. I find him very, very funny.
Oh, he's brilliant. I love his stuff he does with Coogan, the Alan Partridge
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah, very funny. No, yeah, I mean it's going back quite a few years now, but it wasn't like he's a nice bloke every time I come across him. But it was almost like a no, not really, no. Okay, so but listen, I often do what I do when I get a no. I send you in to do the dirty business, Phil, and then you normally get it over the line for us. We'll see. Well, I suppose I'm not going to guarantee we'll definitely do Ronnie, but it'd be nice before we packed up the podcast forever to do Ronnie, wouldn't it? I mean, that would be special. I think that'll have to be done. I thought, well, Roy Keane or Sir Alex Ferguson might have been a good. That's more of a sort of dream, I think. Unlikely. Together would be good. That'll make the headlines. That'll put us on the bloody map.
Yeah, I mean, Keane always turns up at the Crucible usually, so if we
Yeah.
can really corner him, but he's probably quite a hard man to corner.
That's a hell of a prospect. Cornering Roy Keane. Blimey, I'll definitely send you first for that. One of the classic ones. Oh, I've got my colleague in. I'll be nowhere to be seen. Not Stephen Fry. No, no. He's done enough for me. Sorry. What about the other part of the podcast here? The conversation that Brian Campbell talked about, which I love with Radzi. I totally agree. Wonderful guest. Yeah, the pool table wasn't a bad idea. That's the age-old problem. Again, I was having a conversation with someone else about this the other day about how, I think it was a student that I spoke to actually, and I was helping. I think you spoke to the same young man actually with his course, and just saying that one of the problems for snooker clubs, one of them is finances. A lot of them would rather, sell them eventually. And I'm generalising a bit, but I tend to find the ones that I know that have kept them open, they're still going concerns, just love the game. Many of the clubs I've been to across the UK, over in Ireland, different places, you know, they could probably make some money, but they decided to keep them going. But one thing that a load of places do is they soon realise that pool's more viable. So I get why people might want to be introduced in that game. So yeah, not a bad idea. But just love that episode with Radsey. I don't know about there with John Higgins, but I mean, I know Brian's kind in saying that. I mean, I sort of know what he means. I think Higgins for me would always, hard to beat because I just don't think I've ever heard him talk like that. Well, I know I haven't, not at that length. But yeah, Radsey was everything you want in a podcast guest, and I think he's on with Shadnam, isn't he? In the last few days, I've noticed he'd everything you'd ever want actually, because he just wasn't vanilla. He just wasn't vanilla for a minute. He had every other flavour going, Phil. Chocolate, raspberry, pistachio. He just like every single. I don't know, this is torturous stuff with me. Everyone's turned off. Everyone, good stuff. Nice for you to agree. He had everything going on. None of the boring stuff. All the good stuff. The gossip. The ambition for the future. The funny stories. Everything was great. I thought he was marvellous.
Yeah, I really, really enjoyed that. Yeah, yeah. I mean, completely different from interviewing a player, wasn't it? Both really enjoyable for us to do, and I'm glad people enjoyed listening to it. And yeah, on the small tables, I think it's key. Like almost every player you ever speak to who got into the game played on one of those little tables. Where do you see them for sale now? Where I don't know where you
Mm.
get. I suppose. I mean, you would just Google it, and I'm sure you can find one on Amazon. But there should be people at tournaments trying to flog them. I always think because it seems to be the gateway to literally every player you ever speak to. Someone got them a 6x3 table for Christmas, so someone needs to start flogging them to kids more often, so we can get people into the game. I'll certainly be purchasing one for my lad in a few years. But yeah, that would be one way for me that the game would be boosted. Your turn for Brian McGovern.
Oh yes, another Brian. I was about to say, I was saying on Radio Snooker, that if you judge my career by how popular I am with people called Brian, I'll be up there with like Hugh McIlvanney and Martin Samuel and people like that. But everyone called Brian loves me. It's weird. It's great. They're all great Brians, but
Yeah.
they adore me. Hi, Nick and Phil. I'm here watching the final of the Masters, and it was announced that the BBC snooker deal has been extended until 2032. I wonder, is that the end of the Brexit debate? Keep up the good work and enjoy Nick on Radio Snooker. Best wishes, Brian. I mean, not on your Nelly. I mean, really, in some ways. I mean, I get it, but I've got your voice in my head, sort of like, even if it moves somewhere else in the UK, it's huge. Still a huge story. So I think people are sort of, any idea that it's still not a big deal, that line. I mean, I hope it's quieter this year, by the way, because it was too dominant last year. It crossed the line almost, you'd say, in terms of people say that we're responsible for that sometimes, but I mean, that makes me laugh a bit because, if we get a news line from a player a week or two outside the tournament, I spoke to Gary Wilson at length. Gary's great. You spoke to him more than me. He's brilliant for loads of lines. But by a mile, his best stuff was on the Crucible. He was talking about, I don't quite remember the details now. I think it may have been a new Crucible in the place of the Crucible, basically. But it was great lines.
Oh, it's the Crucible on steroids, isn't it?
That was it. The Crucible steroids. Of course, it was. I thought this is the line. He said some other great stuff. There was a situation with the video replay at the time that was a very strong line, but ultimately it's a niche line, really. If I was selling it to an editor, which I'm also trying to do as well, by a mile, the top line was the Crucible. Then I looked around and I noticed that two or three other colleagues had done it. I think, well, it's just taken over again. Barry Hearn, and I've got to say, well, WST, so I'm going off a bit of a tangent, but I have heard a couple of places now, they're sort of like, they're trying to do this line, oh, well, it's all gone a bit wild now, this speculation. But really, they've created a lot of it. It's Barry Hearn going on television and talking about all these things that's created some of the speculation. But it's a bit of a clever deflecting tactic, sort of saying, oh, as if it's sort of somehow the responsibility of us that's done this. I don't quite buy that. I wanted to say that last time, so I'm glad I got the chance. But yeah, no, I don't think it's the end of the Brexit debate. It may be the end of it, possibly going away from the UK. We don't know that for sure. That's what some people are surmising from the BBC deal. But yeah, how much do you think it'll be a factor in this championship field percentage wise this time in terms of the news coverage? What, will you join me in hoping it's a bit less?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and obviously I don't want to sound hypocritical there because I'll write plenty about it. But yeah, I mean, while we're just 1 year close to the end of that contract, so it's not going to go away until they announce something. And obviously that BBC deal sounded like a clue, but it sounded mostly as a clue that it would stay in the UK. And I would say probably stay at the Crucible, but we don't know, do we? And we won't know until it's confirmed. I think it was. I'm trying to remember where I heard it now. It might have been Tom Rowell with Dave Hendon. Someone, I think it was that, mentioned that one of their sort of aims, World Snooker's aims that they set forward, just loose aims, was 2,000 people to be able to attend every final. Um,
Mm.
so, if that is an aim that they're setting, then it ain't going to be the Crucible, is it? Certainly at some point. Um, so yeah, no, it's not. Brexit is not going to go away until a contract and announcement says it's gone away. But yeah, I would say that BBC deal certainly suggests it's not leaving the UK. But that we'll see what if that does move though. And I still think it wouldn't be as quite a enormous story for people here if it went to as if it went to Saudi or China. But the Crucible, losing the Crucible would still be vast for the history of the sport because um, most people, most people who are arguing for the Crucible are specifically arguing for the Crucible. They're not arguing for the UK. They just want it there. So yeah, it would still be huge.
I agree. I mean, sometimes you get the sort of no, it's not. If it goes to Manchester, I've heard suggest not a bad suggestion actually, or if it's they find a swap deal or it goes to Ali Pally, there's the idea that that suddenly won't be a big story. It'll be massive still. I mean, look, leaving the Crucible after half a century to go to another venue and everything that will come with it. I mean, yeah, I don't think it's an end for the debate. Maybe it's narrowed the debate a bit, but anyway, but
I think those sort of debates in terms of media coverage are interesting because if the media didn't cover it at all, everyone would be like, "What are you doing? Why aren't you talking about this enormous story?" So everyone engages it with their point, but then no one knows where the point where it's too much is, and it just naturally reaches that stage, and then everyone's like, "We're sick of this now," and it's really hard to know when that is.
I mean, I don't. Yeah, it sounds like we can all moan about our jobs and stuff. I don't mean this is a violence thing. It comes with the territory, but I have long ago realised you can't really win. For example, and I found this quite a bit on Saudi Arabia. People said, "Oh, shut up about Saudi Arabia. We want to just focus on the sport." I know we've had correspondence on that. You're talking about it too much. I say you can bet your bum dollar it's happened. The minute I or we or would stop talking about it so much, oh, you let it go now. You're sold out. Now you don't care about it anymore. You can't rely on your typical. You've just been lily livered about it. You have to just do what you think is best, don't you? Because you drive
Yeah.
yourself mad if you think people will just say whatever you. And this is true of a lot of walks of life and all things we do. Where there are certain areas in life where you can't win. But I think it's a bit like that in our game, isn't it? Really.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And you can see it in social media when talking points emerge, and they're definitely a talking point. And it's sort of a natural life of a thing that goes around social media. It's sort of a big furore over what is probably something relatively small. But, that's how it works. And that rumbles on for a bit. And then the narrative will completely flip on its head and was like, oh, I think we've gone too far now. Should we just step back a bit? And it's almost people saying, it wasn't even a big deal in the first place. But they were the same people who were talking about it in the first place. It's just natural lifespans of stories, isn't it?
I think the Arsenal sending off's been a bit like that.
Yeah, yeah, exactly that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's tiny. And I'm not just being clever and funny. I didn't say it, but I'm not a liar. It was in my head. I was working Saturday night, and there was part of me I thought I won't say it because I can't be bothered really. Sometimes it's just not worth it. But there was a little part of me that thought people are so angry about this. I wonder if the anger in this particular incident. I don't know if you got the same feeling because I was maybe at work Saturday. If you weren't at work, you might not have had quite this, but all the people, the noise coming in. I thought, well, wait a sec. It looked a bad decision, but this level is pretty mad. I'm not saying I then thought the referee would get death threats, but then the referee has got death threats, and it's got out of control. And now, of course, you're saying, people sort of saying it might have gone too far. So it may not be the best example, but it's kind of a bit like that, eh?
No, I know, yeah, exactly what I mean. And that was that was a good example because it was so extreme, but also probably not like what most of them like because they're not quite as intense as that. As you say, death threats are incredible, but um, yeah, I mean, I thought when I first saw it, I thought it was a terrible decision. Then when you saw the replay, you're like, actually, it's a bit worse than it looked. Still don't think it was a red card, but people saying it's the worst decision they've ever seen. We've seen a lot worse than that. We've seen red cards for things that weren't even fouls. So,
Yeah, yeah.
so it was massively over the top. And then, as you say, it swung back round because it went so far. People were quite quickly just like, hang on a sec, relax. And it's sort of mellowed out now. But usually it's the same curve, but it's a bit of a flatter curve, if you see what I mean. The
Yeah,
reaction
yeah.
isn't quite as extreme and it takes a bit longer to mellow out, but it gets to the same end.
Wise words, sir, and more wise words perhaps from Graham Wilson. Let's decide.
uh, I agree with your praise of the Masters on the pod.
Oh,
That
it's
was such an
definitely good.
enjoyable week.
It's agreement with us. It's very wise
Very
words.
wise.
Sorry.
That was such an enjoyable week. Shaun Murphy is so good to watch when he's playing like that. I know we're still a few months away, but he's got to be a decent bet for the Crucible. As you say, Nick, he seems to do well when years end in five. Yeah, well, we say we're sort of in on the path to the Sheffield now, aren't we? But it's still a lot of snooker to be played, so someone will emerge. But yeah, you wouldn't rule him out for Crucible for sure.
Got to be in there. It's got to be one of the people you think can. I mean, he always can win it, but this is one of those that, yeah, live contender. It's all about peaking when it matters. Very difficult to peak brilliantly for the Masters like he has done, and then peak again for the World Championship 3 months later. But it's been done throughout the years and the history of the game. So Sean's very capable. But what I did find great actually about Sean was he kind of might have been with you actually, but he certainly. I think I've seen it maybe in a couple of places, different kind of wording, but the same principle. He doesn't feel he's added enough when he's won. He's won one, then he's not won one for a while. He's won another one. This might be the. He was saying, I think this might be the first time he's ever won anything twice. Funny enough, not just the Masters, but almost anything. I know that's the
Yeah,
case.
he was trying to remember it. I was speaking to him about that, and he said the
Yeah.
Malta Cup. And then I was on his Wikipedia while I was speaking to him, and I think it was the English under 15s he won three times. But yeah, not
Wow.
since then, not very many.
That's interesting. English, I love that. That's great. So yeah, so that what I like is him sort of recognising I'm really striking. So fascinating to see how far he goes this week, and then in Berlin, and also the events to come. Well, on to Danny Hicks then, who says the Masters snooker at Alexandra Palace has been blooming good, and that 147 by Shaun Murphy was quite marvellous. I used to attend years ago when it was at Wembley Conference Centre. Great days, wonderful tournament. They were great days, and I don't think the BBC has fireworks where I am tonight, Phil. Now bloody hell, January the 29th, the one that stopped me in my tracks. Blimey. Anyway, I don't think that's just because we're on air. I think it's just a random hackney thing. But anyway, yes, they were great days. I wasn't again. I'd have to see it again to be totally sure, but I wasn't convinced they did quite enough on Wembley on that last night BBC package. I thought that was a massive venue for the game. But so's Ali Pally. Yeah, great tournament. So great to hear from you, Danny.
Yeah, and on to John. And before I go to John, I'll script myself. It was the UK under 15 championship, not the English. In case anyone emails in, I only remember that because I was quizzing Sean on who he
Who's
beat
gonna
in the
email in about that?
about
Sean
his
probably
under.
will. Sean probably will.
Yeah, I quizzed Sean who he beat in the three finals. I remember the last one was Ian Priest, who's Welsh. So it couldn't have been the English. It was the UK. Yes, here's John. It's good news about the BBC deal. A few of my friends are casual snooker fans and only really watch the UK Championship, Masters, and World Championship. There must be loads of people like that. I like snooker on ITV4 and Eurosport too, but they just don't have the reach of the BBC. And yeah, I think that's fair, John. I think there'll be yeah, like you say, loads of people who just watch the big three on the BBC. They know when they're going to be. They know what they are. They've been the same for years. They know what to expect, and they like it. And yeah, um, it's probably quite hard for people to imagine. A lot of people listen to this podcast who obviously, I don't think many people listen to this are not the hardcore watch all round types. So it's sometimes hard to imagine that people only tune in for those three, but lots and lots of people do.
Yeah, firm, hard evidence for it. 2 million for the Masters final. There could be as many as four, maybe a bit more for the World final. Listen, ITV get great audiences. They cross the million barrier on a few occasions, but that's still a million. BBC get two, three, four. There are simply people that only watch those three tournaments. So yeah, I think it is an important deal, and important to make that point. Thank you for your correspondence. TalkingSnooker@yahoo.com or tweet us at Talking Snooker. Is that all for the actual snooker then? We said we'd do about an hour, did a little bit more. Is it any other business time, would you say?
When it comes to those video printer results, there's
Oh,
still one
yeah?
go. But yeah, Aaron Hill beat Mark Williams 5-2. What a win that is for the Irishman. That is superb. He made a ton in the final frame to win it in style, so that's very, very impressive. Ricky Walden beat Ryan Day, and Jimmy Robertson beat Noppon Sankam. So interesting results there. I was thinking Barry Wilson, Daniel Wells is 3-3, so that could be a late finish. I was thinking Ricky Walden, Ryan Day. Could there be a more 50-50 match? That's about as 50-50 as you get on tour, isn't it? And I'd had a look at their head to head
It was
before this day.
9-9. I said it last
Yeah,
time. Yeah,
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 exactly.
yeah.
But I
Yeah.
think that is as flip of a coin as you'll find on tour, Ricky Walden versus Ryan Day, I think.
What was the score in that?
5-3 to Ricky.
Ah, 5-3. Yeah, it's always going to be close, wasn't it? You're right. I was thinking that. You can't call that, really. Well, thank you for that. That's a hell of a win for Aaron Hill. Yeah. So one of the big hitters out. Lots of big hitters remaining. We'll see how that tournament develops. Any other business then? Well, the Australian Open tennis is done and dusted. Italy's Yannick Sinner won the men's event, a third Grand Slam title for him. Women's title went to American Madison Keys, her first major title. Liverpool and Arsenal both won their last games in the Premier League, so it's as you were at the top. The Super Bowl in New Orleans coming up on February the 9th will be between the Kansas City Chiefs and Philadelphia Eagles. The Chiefs can make history in that by becoming the first team to ever win 3 Super Bowls in a row. And one of the great events of the sporting year begins this weekend. The Six Nations, always a real winter warmer. France v Wales in Paris is the first game on Friday night. And then on Saturday, it's Scotland, Italy, and Ireland against England. Well, I don't know how much longer that event will be on free-to-air television, Phil. There's various reports. Some of them have been played down a bit since that may go. There are various arrangements, I think, certainly in Ireland and maybe partly in Wales too, that does keep some games on free-to-air. But anyway, it's a brilliant event, the Six Nations. I must admit, I'm very fond of it. I'm sure many of you out there are as well. And yeah, and any more words from you? I'll say our goodbyes and yeah, keep on enjoying the rest of the snooker this week.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's a busy time now, as it always seems to be. German Masters, then a Championship League winners group, then Welsh Open qualifiers, and it's really big coming up to the Grand Prix, the Welsh Open and the World Open to get in that top 32 for Hong Kong because that is big money. And if you're not in that, I think is that yeah, because it's just back to back then the players and the tour. So if you're not in the Grand Prix, you ain't getting in the next two. So yeah, big events coming up and plenty to look forward to. Yeah, I'm enjoying these. The 3 session days. If you're treated to work from home like I am, it's so much snooker. It's great. So yeah, lap it up.
Indeed. Keep your thoughts coming to us, folks. We'd love to hear from you. Enjoy the rest of the tournament. I'll tell you about my German Masters experience in Berlin on the podcast
Oh,
next week. Look
so
forward
where are
to.
you flying out Friday, Saturday?
I'm flying out Thursday, actually. I'll be there for the
Oh
last
wow,
3 days.
superb.
Yeah, so looking forward to that. So I'll get hopefully a taste of all the, the atmosphere before and then into the semis. So yeah, really looking forward to it. And yeah, I've seen lots of our colleagues from Germany posting sort of good video reports from there. It looks like a smashing setup, so I look forward to reporting back about that. And it should be a smashing week, rest of the week, live on television, of course. And so do enjoy that. And I think I've got to go, haven't we? And we've got to go for. I salute you. There's nothing more to say. Apart
Absolutely.
from
No, thanks to everyone for listening as always. A pleasure to be here with you.
of a shaky end to the pod from me, but it was a shaky start and a shaky middle, so who cares? That's it, folks. For now, from your old friends, Phil Haig and Nick Metcalf. Cheerio.